Float.com sponsors the British Supermoto Championship.
This is it, it's round 9, the final round of the 2013 British Supermoto season from Three Sisters in Wigan. I am joined in the studio by two guests, Davey Todd and Chris Hodgson. First of all, at this point of the season, are you two talking?
Yeah, we battle it out on the track, but me and Davey are still good mates off it.
And it's still going down to the wire into this round, isn't it?
Yeah, battling right from the start. I mean, we've had battles all the way through the year and it's always fair, which makes for good racing, really.
Davey's got everything to gain and nothing to lose, so what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, the plan coming into the weekend was just to be really strong in qualifying, and I know sometimes Davey isn't quite as good in qualifying, which gives me a bit of an advantage at the start of the day, so if I can get out in front at the start of the day, I'll be really happy with that, and then just play it safe from there on. Well,
best wishes to you both. I can't wait to see what happens. Let's take a look at Open Elite Race 1. So the plan coming together for Chris Hodgson then. He lines up in pole position after being the fastest man in qualifying for Open Elite Race 1. Lewis Cornish alongside him with David Todd and a familiar face, Craig Vensky on the front row in P4. And row 2 is Dale O'Connor with James Addy, Richard Blakeman and Brad Hardy. On row 3 is Jamie Duncan with Graham Norris, Chris Walker and John Earnshaw. On row 4 is Richard Sharp. Connor Cummings in his debut in the British Championship. Adam Blacklock goes in P15 with Tim Johnson in P16, and on row 5 it's Ollie Kemp and Michael Craig in P17 and 18. Alongside me in commentary, as ever, Christian Idden. Great to have you back as we go down to the final session of the season.
Yeah, and they're off. Great start there from Davey Todd, who wasn't on pole. Hodgson looks across, and they're the two guys fighting out for the championship. Not many points between them. This is going to be a great race.
Well, we're on board, I think, with Lewis Cornish there. The rest of the field coming through there, and its elbows up there from, on Michael Craig from number 759, Ollie Kemp there. And there is Davey Todd ahead of Chris Hodgson, and that's the great start he wanted. But as 18 points separating these two riders going into this meeting, Davey's going to have a little bit more luck on his side. It's all well and good going out and taking the wins, but Chris Hodgson needs to have a bit of a mare here, doesn't he?
Yeah, Davey definitely needs to do what he's doing right now, which is winning races, so he's out the front doing what he needs to do. But he can't just rely on that. Chris Hodgson needs to finish further back than second each race, and things like that can happen. It's tough conditions out there. Look at the difference in tarmac. There's wet bits, there's dry bits. I'm not sure what tyre combinations everyone's gone on, but it looks by the speed they're going, they're probably mostly going to be on slicks, but it's not ideal conditions.
Well, Lewis Cornish there, that we're riding on board with now, looking like he's got quite a good turn of pace here. Chris Hodgson slightly backing it into the entrance to Luna there before they switch into this right long-hander, and there's only one man that I've seen it's power sliding his way around there, and that's you, Ido.
Luna Bend's a great corner. As we're looking now at number 10, that's Connor Cummings, so good to see Connor coming out. He's coming out.
Hey, and Craig Vensky making a pass there on John Earnshaw, and all the puns are coming out here as Chris Hodgson makes a move up the inside of David Todd, pushes him wide. Through two comes Lewis Cornish, and well, that's really cost David Todd here. And I thought Chris may well just sit back, relax, and hope that he's done enough with an 18-point lead going into this round to fend off the challenge from David Todd. But nope, he's here to race, and he puts it sideways. Here comes Lewis Cornish up the inside, and I think Lewis has moved up into first place here now.
What a brilliant move from Cornish. He sees the initiative going past Davey Todd, got into second place, and then Chris Hodgson just lost the back end coming off that dirt section. He's gone a rear slick as Chris Hodgson. I saw that, and it was just, I don't know if he picked up a bit of water on that dirt section and ran wide, but he got no traction at all, and Lewis got all the drive. Okay, this is bad times now for Davey Todd championship wise, but Lewis Cornish getting himself to the front of a British Championship race, and in fine style.
Yeah, well, we've seen some moments of absolute brilliance from Lewis this season, and it's just all about putting it together. I mean, perhaps a strong contender for the championship next year. Don't get me wrong, he's had a brilliant season this year and certainly been up there chasing, but to pull something out of the bag like this, it's a bit of a surprise really when these two are duking it out for the championship.
It is a little bit of a surprise because Hodgson and Davey Todd have been sort of a little bit of a standout with a few others every now and again just putting it in the mix, and Lewis has certainly been one of those put it in the mix, but this is a good opportunity for Lewis, because he knows Hodgson doesn't want to risk as much. As we see there, Graham Norris just sitting up Jonathan Shaw. Great move, and that's Jamie Duncan, I think, number 7, who also got through. But yeah, as I was saying, Chris probably doesn't want to risk too much. He knows that as long as he's somewhere around where that man behind him, Davy Todd, is, then he's safe for the championship. Davy might want to risk a bit more because he's going to have to do something about Chris. So Lewis is the one that's got free rein, really. He can do what he wants, and he just takes a bit of a look over his shoulder just to check where he's at. Then he's got his pit board there on the left that'll be telling him as well. He'll be saying +0 at the moment, so just keep your head down, Lewis. Keep going forwards.
Well, I said a little earlier, David Todd with nothing to lose. Of course, what I forgot to mention is Lewis Cornish with even less to lose. Now we've got a faller. It looks like he's gone a bit deep coming over the tabletop. That is number 37. That's Adam Blacklock in, I think, his debut meeting in the British Championship. Chris Walker then, and his old mate Richard Sharp there, duking it out between the two of them.
Old mate, as in, does that mean he's an old person, or he used to be friends? I think they're still mates.
I think they're still mates. I think they're just old mates. They go back a long way, don't they? Well, let's see if there's any friendship between these two. If Richard Sharp can get up the inside, Walker keeping it pretty honest there and fending off the challenge from Sharpie.
Yeah, nice racing from these two. They are mates. They are stable mates as well. And that's Sharp going up the inside. Doesn't quite make it. Chris Walker just holds him off there. So they're keeping it pretty clean. But we've got someone there just behind as well. That's Norris who's coming into the mix. And Sharpie up the inside. Oh, he skies it out over the tabletop and then goes through the wet patch and still makes it through. Great move there from Richard Sharp. He might have a few square wheels there. He completely flat landed that one.
Well, Chris Hodgson briefly saw him ahead of David Todd still. There's our race leader then, Lewis Cornish, and actually point a little bit of a gap on Chris Hodgson. Not a great deal, but the pressure's really on between these three here, isn't it?
Yeah, not a massive gap that Lewis has pulled, but he has just shown that he's able to put a bike length or two in between these, so Hodgson's sort of stuck in the middle. He doesn't need to worry too hard.
Oh,
David Todd's going up the inside. He's got to make it stick. Oh, he's just pulled out. Hodgson was on the damp patch there. He pushed him wide, so he's made it through. Oh, Hodgson there. On any other day, I think Hodgson would have really closed the door then, but he knew he doesn't want to go down, and Hodgson just ran it out a bit wide, and then he couldn't get on the throttle because it was just that bit of water there. So Hodgson just, not letting Davy through, but not being as aggressive as he would have been. And Davy was actually quite nice to Chris there. Expected a bit more elbow.
Yeah, Hodgson just putting it sideways as he gets the power down off the dirt there. Interesting to see Davy making that move actually, because he effectively had the outside line for the next corner. But it's one of those corners with this configuration where you actually can get the power down. It's not really about hitting the apex because you can hammer it through there and get a good turn of pace, can't you?
Yeah, you can. And like I said, Hodgson had pushed himself wide and onto the wet bit there, so he couldn't get the power down. Now the interesting thing now will be to see if Lewis Cornish has any team orders and if he's been told to let Davy through and sort of back up Chris Hodgson, because that's what Davy needs to do, is get someone between him and Chris Hodgson. Those two are fighting out for the championship, and Davy's lined up for the same move, and that was a much easier pass that Davy's made there.
And we're riding on board with Lewis, and well, is he going to get too close? Is he going to have a look back at him? He's going for the move. He is having a look at the inside. I thought he was actually going to stick it right up there and try and sit him up a little bit, as we saw previously from Graham Norris. Yeah,
we're having no team orders then, I take it. As Davy goes, he overjumped that tabletop and couldn't make the corner. Has he gone down? Oh, we need a camera on that one. I don't know if he's actually still on the track or not. Lewis looks round to see who's behind him. It's going to be Chris Hodgson who's the next one, and he's actually got a bit of a gap to Hodgson as well now.
I can't believe it. David Todd with everything to do. Is he just putting too much pressure on himself at this stage now?
Well, that's it. And Lewis Cornish, what a great win. Unbelievable, and a big championship mix-up there with Davy Todd.
A great race win then for Lewis Cornish, well earned, and the real shock there, Lewis Cornish taking the win while Davy Todd, his teammates, crashing out of that race, and in the end I'm not even sure that he managed to claim third. I think Richard Blakeman coming through there in the end, so that cost him massively. Yeah, there is Richard Blakeman in the background. It's wheelies all round with big handshakes, and there's Davy Todd looking pretty fed up with himself there after that one, and a big disappointment there for David Todd in Open Elite Race 1. So the official results: Lewis Cornish the winner, 35 points to him, and well done to Lewis Cornish. Chris Hodgson second place, Richard Blakeman taking third ahead of David Todd. James Eddy, great to see him back in the championship after making his return in the last round, ahead of his old nemesis Craig Vensky in 6th, Dale O'Connor, Richard Sharp, Graham Norris and Jamie Duncan at the top 10 for Open Elite Race 1. Let's get down to the paddock then with Vicky Monk for reaction from that one.
Richard, well done, third place in race 1. How are you feeling? It's brilliant actually, it's quite good. Lewis and Chris and Davey, they went away but Davey always jumped the jump and come off. But a steady race for me, nice and easy. Nice and for 4th place, but got 3rd overall in the first race, which was quite good.
How are you finding the track today?
It's mix and match here because Lewis and Chris are on front wets and I'm on a front slick. So there's a few damp patches here and there, but it's all right.
Well, keep safe and we'll see you in race 2.
Thank you.
Chris Hodgson, 2nd place, but there's no sign of the 2nd place of the championship in the top 3 today.
No, I went out there and I knew what job I had to do, stay in the top 3, and that's if Davey won all 3 races, but Davey rode really well. It's just a shame he had that crash, and hopefully he'll be okay for the next race.
Did you see what happened, because you were right there with him?
Yeah, me and Lewis were right on his tail, and he just seemed to overjump the jump and just couldn't stop in time and hit all the tyres.
Well, let's hope he's all right. We'll go and catch up with him shortly, but well done to you, Chris. And Lewis, first win in the Open Elites this year. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, really happy with that. Obviously, I had a good race with these boys here and Davey, so yeah, couldn't have asked for more. It's better to win like that than just have everyone crash or everyone walk it. So yeah, to win like that was really good, and I had a good battle with them.
What is it with you? Because you did really well yesterday in the 450s as well. You just seem to have found the setup this weekend.
Yeah, I think I'm just riding more like my old self, ride a bit more loose and less tense on the bike, and also with the championship almost decided, there's no pressure, so just go out and do my thing and ride as hard as I like, and obviously it's paying off. Just wish I'd have done it earlier on in the season really, but...
Well, to be fair, his progress has been getting better and better all season, but I didn't expect in that race it was going to be Lewis Cornish who cleared up. Guys, talk us through that. First of all, Chris, how did you see it?
Oh, it was an amazing race. 3 leaders, Davey came past me, past Lewis within 2 laps. Just a great race to be in, and Lewis, he deserved the win. He rode really well.
Once you got past, were you thinking, I'm just going to sit here and let these two duke it out between themselves here? Or were you thinking, if there's a gap, I'll have it back?
No, Lewis went out there at the weekend, and Lewis, he's a good rider and he rides really hard. And I know that at the end of the year, there's nothing else that he wants to do but win a race. And I think he'd win at all costs. So, just a bit more hesitant then and let them go.
He said something to me actually after that race. He was saying that Chris Cox, who you've worked with yourself, had been telling him to ride smoother and smoother, and he kind of just disbanded that information and gone, no, I need to be more aggressive. And he kind of was a bit more aggressive. Is it kind of, which way do you think he should go? I suppose as a racer, you need a bit more aggression, don't you?
Well, I think Lewis's attitude's changed since we were in Bulgaria. He was with me and Davey a lot more, and he was just a lot more chilled out when we were at the racetrack, and I think he's brought that over to Three Sisters and it's working for him.
Interesting. Davey, your race was perhaps slightly different to Chris's, even though you were certainly up there, involved in the same battles. Talk us through what happened for you.
Well, I was the only person out there on full slicks. Everybody was still running a front wet, so the first couple of laps were a bit slippy for me, and halfway through it's obviously started drying up and I had the advantage. Worked my way through and just made a silly mistake and ran straight in the tyres after the tabletop, but there's nothing I can do about that now. I'm
sick of seeing these sights of you looking dejected after the race, because I know how much this means to you, but the pressure still on. It's not over yet in terms of the British Championship at this point, but the pressure really on now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's still 2 races left, and I think it'll be right down to the wire, right down to the last race. So.
Absolutely. See how you go. And interesting to see, just a couple of quick name checks. Of course, Craig Venske back in the saddle, the former British champion. Great to see him out there. Was there much of a competition from him in that race? It didn't look like it in race 1, but certainly the other races may be different.
Yeah, well, Craig started the day well. I think he qualified on the front row, so he was doing really well. We didn't see much of him there on the cameras, but I know he was having a steady ride.
And quickly, Connor Cummings too, out there. Great to see a big road race name like Connor involved.
Yeah, he's a really good rider. He's only just got into Supermoto through Dave Clark actually. Dave Clark's helped him out with a few parts, and he's got up and running up with a Supermoto bike, and he said he's really enjoyed it, so came over to do one.
Well, let's see how he goes, and you both go, most importantly, in Open Elite Race 2. That's coming up right after this break.
OneToLiveAfloat.com sponsors the British Supermoto Championship. TheSport.com sponsors the British Supermoto Championship.
Welcome back to Three Sisters for the final round of the 2013 British Supermoto Championship. Chris Hodgson and David Todd are locked in battle for the British Championship. Let's see how they get on in Open Elite Race 2. So the lineup then for Open Elite Race 2, Lewis Cornish taking the top spot then ahead of Chris Hodgson in P2, Richard Blakeman in P3 and David Todd on the outside. On row 2 is James Addy with Craig Venske, Dale O'Connor and Richard Sharp. On row 3 is Graham Norris with Jamie Duncan, John Earnshaw and Brad Hardy. On row 4 is Connor Cummings with Tim Johnson, Michael Craig and Ollie Kemp. And on the 5th row is Chris Walker with Adam Blacklock. So the riders on the grid then ready to go again for this one, Christian.
Yep, and the riders now watching their lights, head down, Lewis Cornish off pole. What sort of starts he going to get? Looks like Davey Todd's got another flyer off the inside there, but it's Chris Hodgson who takes the whole shot by the looks of it.
Yeah, and up the inside there comes Lewis Cornish. The rest of the field coming through and just spotted Connor Cummings in the middle of that pack there. At the back there is number 37, Adam Blacklock, who, interestingly enough, actually riding a DCR bike, Ross Gird's old bike, as he's headed back to Australia. So Dave Clark invited him and Connor Cummings down. In fact, it is Connor's own bike. Now, 125, it's not Dean Wingate, actually, it's Craig Venske riding that, but Dean Wingate's old number.
Yeah, good to see Venske back in the championship. He's an ex-British champion, of course, and yeah, nice to see him back. One of the most aggressive riders you'll ever see on a track, and he's a big lad as well, so you don't want to mess with him too much. But yeah, great to see Craig back in racing.
Absolutely, and great to see this man back as well. James Addy, I gave him a quick name check from race 1, but of course making a return from that big wrist injury sustained at Mete last season. He had his first race meeting, I suppose. He had a go at Three Sisters at the start of the season and felt his wrist wasn't strong enough. Spent the season super light racing and then came back at the last round at Brighton and put in a fine performance, to be fair. He's showing that he's still competitive and riding through the pain barrier.
Yeah, he was very fast at Brighton, and it's a little bit more technical, this track.
Oh, there goes Sharpie!
Sharpie just lost the front there as he went round there. It is a bit of a chilly day. You can see the track still not dry, and didn't really do a great deal wrong there, but it just went from underneath him. Bike still running, he's up and going, so not lost too much there, Richard Sharp, but a shame for that man nonetheless.
Interestingly enough, the track now drying out. It does look like everyone is on slicks, and perhaps maybe the track's still a little bit moist, and that's maybe what's catching them out.
Absolutely, we're now looking at Connor Cummings, who's having a sterling ride, to be fair. Don't forget, this is the elite British Championship, and
looking for a move on Tim Johnson on the inside. He goes, brilliant move,
lovely move. He's getting well involved. That's what we like to see when people come racing. Just get involved, get your elbows out, and have a good go.
If there's one man that can fly over the mountain, it'll be Connor Cummings, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's got all that experience of I mean, Connor obviously does the Isle of Man, where he's on his own for basically 4 hours, but he's certainly not on his own racing Supermoto. This is definitely cut and thrust, and he's mixing it with the best of them, so fair play to Connor.
Yeah, great to see him out there. Now here's Lewis Cornish in 3rd place, David Todd in 2nd place, Chris Hodgson currently leading this one. So in terms of the British Championship, just, well, I suppose a few points separating these two. David Todd, of course, lost a little bit. Richard Blakeman then chasing Craig Venske, as we've talked about, that former British champion. Brilliant to see him racing in this today, and great to see him back. And well, he's spent quite a lot of time out after injury, and a big injury that he had going through Valley, where he high-sided and basically smacked his leg down, and a big leg injury for him. So he's a tough guy, and yeah, let's hope we see a full season of competitive racing from Venske next season.
Yeah, it'd be great to see him back on the grid, definitely, but at the moment he's just holding Blakeman up a little bit. Venske had the pace in qualifying, he didn't quite have the pace in race number 1, and it looks like he is just a little bit steady mid-corner at the moment, so it's to be expected. He spent a long time out, and
here comes David Todd at the inside,
and that is a carbon copy of the move he made in race 1 on Chris Hodgson and on Lewis Cornish, so he's got that one dialed. Now, we heard from David that he had a slick front on. I think they've all got slick fronts on now in race 2. He was the only one in race 1 that had one. But now I'm interested to see what Lewis Cornish can do. He's got that win under his belt, so you know, is he going to go and do it again?
Well, Lewis Cornish and David Todd both got the older KTM engine with the twin cam, so maybe just a little bit more torque coming out of Luna could have been his advantage there.
Could be. He'd made that pass stick, you know, quite a long way before even they sort of got to the braking zone, so you know, that move was done. But Davey now really putting the hammer down. He needs to do it. Chris Hodgson's in a little bit of a different situation where he just needs to not make any mistakes, so I'm not expected to see a big comeback from Chris Hodgson. could be wrong because I know how good Chris Hodgson is, but I also know he's got a head for winning championships, and he doesn't need to be going racing Davy Todd.
Looks like Lewis Cornish has just sat up a little bit. He's a bit more alert, he's a bit more on it, and now looking like he's going to chase down Chris Hodgson. So could Lewis Cornish really be the spoiler here?
Well, Lewis Cornish can. Lewis Cornish is going to be the man who, he's got that race winning that first race, so let's see if he gets his elbows out and puts a nice hard move on, hopefully a fair one, but a nice move on Chris Hodgson. And we see Richard Blakeman lining up Craig Venski's. He's on the inside line, but he's not quite made it stick. Plenty of poke out of that Honda that Craig Venski's on.
Yeah, absolutely, and looking quick as well, looking pretty competitive. His first ride, we didn't see a lot of him, so great to see him battling it out with Blakeman here. Now there's James Addy at the back of this gaggle of riders. It's Richard Blakeman and Craig Venski over the tabletop they go. A little bit of a wobble from the onboard there is Venski's turning it into the dirt section, and
he's gone down. And Addy's made 2 positions, and Blakeman, I don't know if he stole the bike.
Just ran over him there.
I think he was worried about Craig Venski there, so that was pretty nice of Richard Blakeman to stop in his own race, but Venski's down. That wasn't a big crash, he only lost the front, but I think he might have had a bit of a clout from Richard Blakeman. That's the problem there.
Well, that is literally the entire field coming past Craig Venski, and he's getting up a bit gingerly there, to be fair. And a pretty heavy looking tumble, because I suppose when the front end tucks from underneath you there, you go down pretty heavy on that dirt section, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think it was actually that fall. It was just the fact that Richard Blakeman collected him on the way past, not through any fault of his own. Richard was right behind him, so there's no place for him to go. But looks like Venski there was just holding his right arm a bit, which is about where he will have been clipped. So hopefully he'll be all right. Doesn't look too bad, but he is a hard fella, so he can mask a lot of pain. But hopefully we'll see him out for the final race.
Well, here is Davy Todd, and well, I suppose it's small consolation, a victory over Chris Hodgson with just 2 corners remaining, but still not enough for him to bag the championship here, and it is looking like Chris Hodgson has done enough. There's a few more riders here for him to lose a few more points potentially in the last race, but David Todd taking the win and doing absolutely everything he can in Open Elite Race 2. There's the checker flag, and a great win there for David Todd. Chris Hodgson and Lewis Cornish in 2nd and 3rd, just acknowledging the efforts from Davy there, but is it too little too late for David Todd here? So the official results of Open Elite Race 2. David Todd taking a win, 35 points ahead of Chris Hodgson, going away with 32. Lewis Cornish then with 30 ahead of James Addy. Great to see him in 4th place. Dale O'Connor bagging 5th ahead of Graham Norris, Richard Blakeman, Richard Sharp. Connor Cummins in the top 9. Fair play to a man in the British Open Elite Championship ahead of Brad Hardy in 10th place in Open Elite race number 2. Well, let's get down to the paddock then for reaction from that one with Vicky.
Lewis, that was a great race. How did you find it out there?
Yeah, really good, real fun race. I was in 2nd for quite a lot of the race. I made a mistake just before the big tabletop. The tabletop. I had Davey behind me, and Davey nipped through after that mistake, and managed to regroup and catch back up with Hodgson and Davey, but it's just too close, and I'm having a little bit of problem with front end patter and stuff around some of the faster corners. But yeah, other than that, it's been a really good race. I really enjoyed it.
Still some really tidy racing though. Are you looking to step it up a bit further up the podium for race 3?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, to be fair, between any one of us, you couldn't really choose when the times are that close. So just seems to be whoever gets a good start and doesn't make the mistakes is the one who will do well. So hopefully it's me.
That's exactly right. Well, best of luck then for race 3. And Chris Hodgson, you're 2nd in this race, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's a bit strange coming here, and I'm not really racing to win every race. I'm racing to win the championship here, so that was a good result for me, and I'm happy with it.
How's the track out there? It looks like it's dried up quite a bit from this morning.
Yeah, everyone's running full slicks now, so the track's really good, but looking at the skies, it looks like there could be a show before race 3.
I think you might be right about that. Well, best of luck and keep it shiny side up. And Davey, a bit better for you this time, eh?
Yeah, a lot better. Made amends for race 1, my crash, which was a silly mistake. I had a couple of bike problems, and I got to give it to my team. They worked non-stop from the end of race 1, sorted the bike out. It's absolutely brilliant for that race, working perfect, and got the win.
It is hard to go out on a brand new clutch, and you've brought it home for race 2, so well done with that.
Yeah, it was weird trying to test it on the warm-up lap, but it's been great.
Well, another entertaining race in race 2. Davey doing it from the front row, but in 4th position to taking the win in the end. Well done.
Yeah, I got a good start. I got away in front of Blakeman and just behind Lewis and Chris, and managed to make a pass on Lewis and then on Chris and keep it consistent and take the win.
Now, Chris, I feel like you're almost sandbagging a little bit, trying to keep out of the way of these two, just a tad.
Yeah, you know, like I've said before, this weekend it was just a safe weekend, be nice and steady and basically no mistakes and trying not to get caught up in anything. And you know, Davey's making his passes in safe places, so I was all right.
Absolutely, and of course, yeah, you battling out with Lewis again.
Nah, of course, coming at the last round of the season, Lewis wants to win races. I need to win races, obviously, to keep my championship hopes alive. And Chris needs to be just consistent and be up there. If he just makes the smallest mistake, then the championship's at stake.
Absolutely, and great to see Venski out there, but he had a heavy-looking fall, tangling with Richard Blakeman, and Blakeman just ran over him by the looks of things. So hope Venski's all right from that. It looked like he was actually carrying a bit of an injury off the back of that.
Definitely, you know, Venski's another good rider, and the more good riders we get out there, the better it is for everybody else on the track. Well, unfortunately, you know, fell off. Blakeman used him for grip.
Well, let's hope he is okay, and let's see how you all get on in Open Elite Race 3. Don't go anywhere, because it's the finale of the 2013 British Supermoto Championship. Race 3 coming right up, the decider, after this break.
tthe sponsors the British Supermoto Championship. tthe sponsors the British Supermoto Championship.
This is it, the decider of the 2013 British Supermoto Championship. It's Chris Hodgson versus Davey Todd. Let's see how they get on in Open Elite Race 3. So Davey Todd finally making it to pole position then for Open Elite Race 3. Chris Hodgson alongside him with Lewis Cornish and James Addy on the front row. On row 2 is Dale O'Connor with Graham Norris, Richard Blakeman and Richard Sharp. On row 3 is Connor Cummins with Brad Hardy, Tim Johnson and John Earnshaw. It's Jamie Duncan in P13 on row 4 with Ollie Kemp, Michael Craig and Adam Blacklock. And on the 5th row, just one rider, starting right at the back with work to do, Craig Venski in P17. That's certainly how he qualifies, but actually, Craig Venski not looking like he has lined up on the back row for this one, you know?
No, doesn't look like he's there, but this is it. This is the race for the championship. Davey Todd versus Chris Hodgson with Lewis Cornish is definitely going to be in the mix as well. And the track is looking much wetter than it was earlier, and everyone's out there on wet, so the track has completely changed from before. This is going to make it very interesting indeed.
Yeah, to say we had a bit of a downpour during one of the Superlight races would be an understatement. Even as a rainbow over the circuit, looked very picturesque. Here's Davey Todd then, Chris Hodgson in 2nd place, Lewis Cornish in 3rd. I think that's Dale O'Connor in 4th at the moment. And we'll not see a great deal of Dale today because, well, all the eyes have been on the sharp end of things as far as the championship goes with these three battling it out.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen a lot of these front 3 guys, but this is going to make it very interesting. The skies are looking pretty clear, and you know, so that means the grip levels are going to change quite a lot during this race. There is water down, but it's not a massive amount. There's dry patches already, so we're also going to see who can adapt as quick as they can to these conditions. They rode it a little bit in qualifying this morning, and now it's changed quite a lot. They've got to adapt. They rode full slicks in the 2nd race, and now things have changed a lot. And Dale O'Connor, look, fair play to him. He's jumped up. He's obviously adapted very well, and he's in a very strong 4th position. Brilliant effort there from Dale O'Connor.
Well, we're in Wigan, probably one of the few places in the country where you can actually have 4 seasons in one day here, but Chris Hodgson really having a challenge at Davey Todd, and well, he was just saying how maybe by his own admission probably sandbagging a little bit, but actually does look like he's just keeping the pressure on. There is Dale O'Connor, number 41. He's had a really good season actually, a little bit up and down at times, but still solid performances. And here comes Chris Hodgson on the inside. Davey's gone wide.
He just ran wide, and Chris Hodgson just sees the opportunity. Davey this time a year ago actually crashed going into that corner right in front of me, so maybe just being a little bit hesitant, knowing he doesn't want to go down, but yeah, just a smallest mistake there, and Davey just ran just offline, and Chris Hodgson was straight through, and now he's got his teammate Lewis Cornish, so the 2 DCR stablemates are going at it, and this is exactly what Chris Hodgson wants to see. He's got that number 1 plate on, he's in P1, and he's gunning for the championship.
Let's talk briefly about potential. Slightly slippy conditions, Chris Hodgson out in front. It's the opportunity to force him into a mistake, perhaps cost him some points for Davey Todd here. He doesn't need his teammate right on his back wheel pressuring him, does he?
No, he definitely doesn't. Lewis Cornish is out there for himself, and fair play to him, you know. go out there and show people what you can do. So you know, I wouldn't really expect anything less. So fair play to Lewis, but it's a lot for David to think about, as are the conditions. As you can see, look, that whole part of Luna there is completely dry. So conditions are changing, and look how difficult the grip is. Hodgson lost the back end.
Hodgson's gone wide and just allowed the pair of them through.
He's let them through. He made a bit of a mistake, decided not to tip in. Now I hope he hasn't got any bike issues there, because he did shut off quite a lot. But no, I think he's just decided, no, there's no need to be putting risks in. Yeah, there was no need to risk it. And that was pretty hard for him to pull back in the pack, because Davy Todd with Lewis Cornish, no gap between, so he thought, right, I'll just sit there in third. So you know, like I said, Chris Hodgson's won a lot of championships. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows how to win. Oh! Flipped!
Down goes, that's Lewis Cornish, isn't it? Yeah, in second place. And incredible, absolutely incredible. I was just about to say, actually, you know, these two riders, to be fair to them, racing, or all the riders really, racing for the British Championship. We talk about those two being teammates, but of course there is no Constructors' Championship, is there? They're all racing individually.
Absolutely, but I can't believe they got so close that Lewis Cornish ended up going down. What a shame, what a sad end to what a great season. So this is it now, this is the race for the championship, but if Hodgson stays where he is, then he's going to be the number one, and but then you've got a bit of bragging rights, because Davy Todd could potentially here be taking the second win of the day, and Hodgson won't have won any on this last day of the championship.
It's just incredible. I mean, Michael Craig, I think ahead of him, probably the backmarker that Davy's just coming up towards, and well, it's really been a topsy-turvy meeting, hasn't it? I mean, 18 points going into this round between those two. It was always going to be a tall order for Davy, as we're having a look at Connor Cummins, having a look up the inside of Richard Sharp, and I think he's got the power down. Sharpie just having a look across, and Connor's done it. So a great effort from Connor Cummins. Great to see. I think he started his racing career in the Yamaha R6 Cup some time ago. I remember that championship.
Well, he's adapting to this pretty quick, so fair play to him.
So there is Chris Hodgson over at Coward Summit, down Penrith Climb as well, or up Penrith Climb, down Coward Summit rather, the other way around. Here is David Todd having a look over his shoulder, coming over the line there to take the checker flag. Too little, too late for the championship, but that's got to feel good, beating the British champ over the line then for David Todd. He's worked so hard this year to try and really give severe competition for Chris Hodgson. And Chris Hodgson, with a big burnout, celebrates becoming the British champion once again. David Todd, the race winner then for Open Elite Race 3. Chris Hodgson in second place, going away with 32. Lewis Cornish goes away with 33rd, ahead of James Addy, Dale O'Connor, Richard Blakeman, Graham Norris. Connor Cummins up to 8th place. Great to see him going so well. And Richard Sharp in 9th, ahead of Brad Hardy. I should say a big thank you to Christian Idden for joining me in commentary this season. Let's get down to the paddock then for reaction with Vicky Monk from that one.
Lewis, what happened to you?
Got a pretty good start, off on thirds. Followed these two, and I think Chris ran wide into a corner and then just let me and Davey go at it. I mean, Chris has already got the championship really going into this race, so there's nothing for him to prove. And yeah, me and Davey just going at it pretty much every corner until eventually I got a little bit too close and ran to the back of him, and yeah, ended up on my head. But yeah, I picked myself up and scraped myself around for a finish in first, so I'm happy with that really.
I just saw you fighting with your helmet coming past the holding grid there. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Like the peak on my helmet got bent back, and obviously that was like restricting me down the straights and pulling my goggles back and all sorts. But yeah, I'm happy just to end the season off like this. I mean, I had a crash and finished third, but I think like my pace was really good and had some really good racing with my teammates, so you can't ask for much more than that.
You were down for ages and still finished third, so you guys had obviously pulled a massive gap to be able to get away with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Addy was the guy who's behind us and he's had most of the year off, so you know, you can't expect him to be right up the front straight away, but fair play to him. I mean, to still be running fourth when you've got guys that have been racing all year, I think it's really quite credible. So yeah.
Well done this season, Lewis. It's been great watching you racing. We're just going to move on now to Davy Todd. And Davy, it wasn't the first place you were hoping for, but second in your first full year of the Elites is really not bad.
Yeah, really tough for that. I mean, I've had a great year with Chris battling, and all I can do is thank all my team, Dave Platt Racing, Chris Cox, everybody who sponsored me. It's like a huge help, and it's been a great year. Did what I could to finish on top, but it wasn't enough, and maybe next year.
Well, you still won the final race of the year, so that's not bad going either.
No, I'm really chuffed for that. I mean, I messed up the first race and crashed, but I redeemed myself, won the second and third race, so I'm pleased with that.
It's a very different story to this time last year as well. It just shows how much you've come on as a rider in the last 12 months, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm really chuffed. I mean, coming in at the start of the year, I only really expected top three. My aim was top three, I didn't expect it. But no, really chuffed we're getting second in the championship. You know, Chris is a great rider, and I didn't do enough to beat him, but hopefully next year.
What have you learned this year?
Oh, I've learnt so much. Riding with Chris and Lewis and all the top riders. I've got to be like consistent is the main thing. Is be there every single race, and that's what Chris was, and that's why he's won the championship.
Thanks, Davey.
Nice one, mate.
Well done, guys. Well done, buddy.
Solid. Well done, boys. Proper job. Good job, mate.
I think that's what they definitely call a champagne shower.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fair play to Dave. He's pushed us hard all year, and it's came down to the last race. So, yeah, it's been really good.
What's been the highlight for you this year?
I mean, just the competition with Davey and Lewis. You know, everyone thinks that people can rock up and just win a race, but it's definitely harder than that now, and I'm sure it'll be even harder next year.
What was the moment of clarity for you then in that race? Because you just decided to let them all go, didn't you?
Yeah, I see my board at +0, and it was Davey and Lewis, and just there was no point in me pushing forward when I knew those two were behind of us. So just let them go and let those two fight it out.
Is the champagne stinging your eyes yet?
No, it hasn't quite sunk in yet.
We'll let you get yourself sorted out anyway. But well done, Chris. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, it doesn't get more exciting than that, Davey. 2 wins out of 2, but still not enough to beat this man. Sadly, I mean, you've given it absolutely everything today. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've done all that I could possibly do, really. It wasn't down to me. I needed a bad result from Chris, and he didn't give me that. He was consistent, and I couldn't beat it. So
that's the trouble. He's been telling us all day about how calculated he's been, and he's actually looked at the math a little bit, to be fair. I didn't even know it could add up, to be fair. But Chris, no, seriously, well done. Absolute great effort.
Yeah, cheers. No, today just went as planned. I got a really good qualifying result, so that just set the deal brilliantly. And like I say, that final race, I just made the pass on Davey early on, and I knew they were both breathing down my neck, so I thought I'll just let them go and let them two battle it out.
I made a note here, wussed out. I don't know why I put wussed out, but you passed Davey, and then you went, hang on a minute, a kind of caution being the better part of valour, I suppose, there.
Oh, definitely, you know, to be behind those two was definitely a better position than in front of them. Well,
I mean, it was interesting to watch you two duking it out, you and Lewis Cornish, of course. Again, for the 3rd time today, you know, and I mean, if nothing else, it's shown that you two are perhaps the future of British Supermoto racing. Of course, Chris, the British champion, there's no question, but the speed that you two have moved through this season has been incredible. Yeah, for sure. We're both quite young riders, and we're both challenging at the top, so hopefully, yeah, the next couple of years will be real good for us. Well, it's not over yet. More race analysis from today's action, and there's been plenty actually coming up right after this break. Don't go anywhere, because we've got the presentations, and we'll take a look at all the action from all the Open Elite races today in the last round of the 2013 campaign.
tthe sponsors the British Supermoto Championship. tthe sponsors the British Supermoto Championship.
So David Todd taking the top step then, ahead of Chris Hodgson in 2nd place and Lewis Cornish in 3rd. So this is how the championship standings look. Chris Hodgson, the man on the top spot, 797 points to David Todd's 781, a difference of 16 points in the end between those two. Lewis Cornish in 3rd in the British Championship, ahead of Richard Blakeman, Richard Sharp, Dale O'Connor, Graham Norris, Tim Johnson, Brad Hardy and Michael Craig, the top 10. So there you go, Chris. It's there in black and white for you. British champion once again. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, you know, it's been a great year. I've had a good battle with Davey throughout the year, and you know, he hasn't made it easy. So I'm chuffed to bits with what we've got, and you know, I can't thank everybody that's helped enough. Trevor Pope, Bluefield, Skyzone, and just everybody that's backed us and sponsored us. And I feel that this year Davey's pressed you probably more than
some others in the past have, you know, in terms of you going away and you're thinking a little bit more like a sportsman, how can I approach this? Can I, you know, afford to lose a point to actually gain a championship position here, you know, and just think a bit more strategically about it rather than going out and gassing it?
Yeah, I think, like you say, I've changed myself this year. Instead of trying to win every race, I've thought, you know, we'll take second here, or, you know, I'll just ride comfortably rather than risking a crash. And this year's been hard because most of the rounds, most of the races, if I haven't won, I finish second, and when I finish second, Davey's won the races.
You can't put an old head on young shoulders, can you? And Davey, you know, without sounding too patronising, you know, you've still got a lot to learn, haven't you? You know, and that's the thing. And I think what I've seen in the last 12 months, you know, your experience and the way you think on circuit has just grown so much. You must have learned so much.
Oh yeah, even this year, coming in at the start of the year, like where I've been riding with Lewis, and I've learnt a lot of him, and then riding through the year, riding with Chris, I've learnt a lot of him as well, and just it's been a constant like learning curve for me, really, right the way through the year. It's just got better and better, really. It's
been great to watch, and you know, Lewis Cornish too. You know, if we take a look at the race clips from today, the three of you, you know, just battling it out all day. You couldn't really predict it because it's been so interesting. First of all, I'm just going to make a note on this from race one. There was a little comment on social media from John Earnshaw, not particularly happy with this challenge from Craig Venske. It actually looked worse on the onboard clip that he had, sort of saying that he cut straight across the front of him. Chris, you're a British champion. Craig Venske's been a British champion. Is that how you ride? Is that fair?
Yeah, you know, I don't think there was a lot in that. I think John's just woke up in the morning and had his wife's underwear on and had a bit of a womanly moan about it. So, you know, he just has to get on with it, and, you know, if he thinks it's been a hard move, just do one back to him.
Well, this was a hard move on poor Davey. Talk about getting caught with your trousers down. Davey did here. First of all, you going through Valley, Chris, you passed, and then Lewis Cornish straight through there. You left a big gap there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I left a gap, but I really didn't think he'd come through there, and he did. He took the opportunity, really, came straight through and sat me up a little bit because I didn't expect him to come through, and that's how Lewis got through as well, but I just had to get back on it and try and get him back.
We'll talk about sitting people up. On the same corner, in fact, Graham Norris made this pass on John Earnshaw twice today. I suppose John Earnshaw's been on the receiving end of it after coming back from injury, but, you know, through into Valley there. A hard move again, Chris. From
yeah,
Graham.
You know, if he wants to complain about a pass, that was the one to complain about, you know, because Graham came through with some force there. If he didn't touch him, he was very close to doing so.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But you continued, a pass on Chris, and then a pass on Lewis. Talk us through these two.
Yeah, well, I managed to get a good run, a good line through Luna every time, and because I was getting that, I was getting a really good run down the straight and into the next corner. It was a little bit close with Chris and only just managed to squeeze through. We were saying before, it looked even tighter on the camera than it felt in real life.
And Connor Cummins, great to see a rider like Connor, you know, who races in the TT, competing in the British Supermoto Championship. He seems to be really enjoying it, and this amazing pass on Tim Johnson coming over the top of Coward Summit and down from Penrith Climb rather, all the way down there. Brilliant pass.
Yeah, it was a really good pass by him coming down the hill there. You're carrying a lot of speed, so it takes some guts to go for it down there, but he made the pass stick and really clean as well. Hats off to him. It was a good pass.
And then you made a pass on Chris after passing Lewis as well in the same race. Another good move.
Yeah, I managed to get through that time in the same place and managed to make it stick that time and stay on the bike, more importantly.
And Chris, Venske had this fall. Your old mate Richard Blakeman decided to run over him for fun. I don't know, pretty nasty actually, to be fair, and he didn't race in Open Elite Race 3.
Yeah, you know, when you're riding that close together, once someone makes a mistake in front of you, it's really hard to get away around them. So Blakeman just went right over the top of him and used him as a grip. And I spoke to Craig after race 2, and he said he'd think that he'd broken his collarbone.
Oh dear. Well, talking about race 3, I should point out Davey won race 2. Then, Chris, you passed Davey. That was another great pass. There's so many passes between you guys today. Talk us through this one.
I seen a gap, got myself past Davey, and after that I thought better of it, and you can see he's going into another corner, and I think I borrowed John Earnshaw's underwear that he'd put on in the morning and let them both through.
Then, back to the battle with you and Lewis Cornish. Cornish then fell. Talk us through that.
Yeah, well, for sure, I think Chris, he's not stupid. He was probably right to move out of the way and let me and Lewis through. Lewis was coming really quick and I couldn't really back off because I had the championship still at stake and I had to get the best and the most amount of points I possibly could. So basically, I was still going for it. Chris had let it go a bit because he knows what he's doing. But I had a really good battle with Lewis. He passed me a few times and managed to get him back every time, but just spun up a little bit coming out of the corner and back end came out, and then he just clipped my back wheel as it squared back up, and it took him down, which is a shame, but he still managed to get back up in third place, I think.
Well, with my heart in my mouth, I really enjoyed it, I have to say. Finally, Connor passing Richard Sharp, so two great moves from Connor Cummins today, in race 3. That pretty much sums it up because David won race 3. You clinched the British Championship. How are you feeling, Chris?
Yeah, like I said, it's just an absolute amazing feeling to do it again 3 years in a row. Everyone says it's easy to get to the top of the ladder. It's just hard work to stay there, and it's definitely proven that now. Yeah,
and I think, as I said earlier, Davey's really pressed you for that as well this year, hasn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he hasn't won it this year, but next year I can only see it being even harder.
Absolutely. Highlight the season for you then, Davey?
I couldn't point out one point, to be completely honest. I mean, all through the year it's just got better and better, even towards the second half of the year really, where I've been having battles with Chris here and Lewis. It's been the three of us having some really good battles, and it's all been really clean racing, really good fun. I've enjoyed it.
And Chris, if we were to look at the silverware and I was to ask you what your highlight of the season was, would it be lifting the silverware, or would it be something else that you take away from this year?
No, like Davey says, we're out there and everyone's laying their life on the line, and everyone's racing at high speeds, and to come off the track and laugh about it and shake hands and be good mates, it's absolutely brilliant.
Well, talking about shaking hands, I would like to say well done to Chris Hodgson, British Supermoto Champion, and so too to David Todd, second place. And well done, in fact, to all the competitors in the British Supermoto Championship. With a tear in my eye, I've got to say that's it for the 2013 British Supermoto Championship. Though we will be back in 2 weeks' time with the season review, all the highlights of the 2013 campaign. You can join the Superlight action 9 AM on Motors TV next Saturday. But from us here today, and in fact for this season, from the Supermoto Racing, we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
Float.com sponsors the British Supermoto Championship.